Holy shit. I was really not planning on making an I Win to Lose video to any extent, but after whatever the fuck I just witnessed in that last video, it would be ludicrous for me not to talk about it. Hey guys, Flip here, and today I Win to Lose finally slipped up, so I can now officially sentence this clown ass in a Genshin court, which, as I said in the intro and even my last video, I really didn't plan on doing. Oh yeah, by the way, first time watchers, if you don't happen to know what the Genshin court is or what it entails, I advise you to go watch the other videos on it to get a better understanding. But the TLDR is that I'll be taking content creators that have made a few questionable takes on characters or the game in general, and trying them based on how bad their takes were and giving them a fitting sentence for said takes. Speaking of takes, you should take time out of your day to consider liking the video if at any point you're entertained, and maybe even click the subscribe button because of how smooth that transition was. Anyways, back to the topic, I Win to Lose. And now since this motherfucker has his own video, I can finally explain why it was so hard to make a video on him. Most of the problems with I Win to Lose aren't really because of him. His videos are very dummy based tests or comparisons, which is who does more damage than this other character in this specific scenario. And while that really isn't bad in isolation, the problem with this approach is that for all the brain dead coping waifu players that want to say their waifu is better than another, they will reference I Win to Lose's videos, even though the level 70 C0 Raiden is not going to hit a fraction of the damage he hits in his videos. So when I see people in Genshin servers molding over this man's, then I go watch his videos, I don't see the massive problem with anything he says. Again, it's more of the tests that are the problem. Like comparing Zhao's single target to Ito, then never putting Zhao in any scenarios where he shines, being extended AoE fights. This makes way more people downplay Zhao, even though he should still be regarded as one of the top carries. I Win to Lose's videos mostly pander to people's confirmation bias, when they really should not be using his videos as an accurate measure of character strength, which I will explain as we move on to the first piece of evidence, which will be whatever the shit that this comparison is. Okay, first thing I need to know is when I first started watching these videos, he kept throwing out damage potential by his own metrics. I can assure you most of his viewers don't know what the fuck this is at all, but it was explained pretty poorly in this video, which is everything I know on how he calcs it. And the thing that stands out to me is that in one of his videos, he says that Ito has the lowest damage potential at around 60 to 80%. He doesn't even have Ito on his site where he shows the damage potential calcs. If you're going to talk about damage potential, a metric you made up, at least let people know how the metric properly works, as when you say stuff like someone has a better damage potential than another, that skews the average viewer's bias. So if a character with lower damage potential performs ass cheeks, then they blame it on that. But if the opposite were to happen, the average viewer will play up that character like they are a shonen protagonist with all odds stacked up against them. When you make up a formula, you at least have to explain the methodology behind it. Like for example, I have a metric I call the bitches potential. Basically, if you have more than 500 achievements on Genshin, there is zero potential for you to get bitches.
Part of the video, the disclaimers.
Each of the showcases in this video were done to the best of our abilities within a reasonable amount.
No one listens to these disclaimers. I genuinely still haven't read it. Even I Win to Lose brushes off the disclaimers he makes as something annoying and makes it look jarring. So why the fuck would the viewer care either?
And with all that out of the way, we can finally get started with our first and favorite volunteer, the Cryo Regisvine.
The most useless and pointless test, the Regisvine. No, but for real, can someone explain why this test is still here? It's so fucking outdated, it's unreal, and serves no practical purpose. There are currently better things to test on like Masanori, so why the fuck are we defaulting to flowers that have lower HP than the Mermaiden? No one is gunning to find out how quickly they can kill the simplest boss in the game. Who is even using a C6 R5 Eula to kill this shit? They're going to try to compare characters, at least use them in scenarios people actually care about. You know, like the fucking emblem domain every player has just defaulted to farming.
Oh shit, here we go again.
All the weekly bosses, most of these videos are just filled with these pointless tests that don't really apply to anyone, and then just again, people will use these results for their own character biases. No one is starting a farm to where they need to beat the pollen out of 1,000 flowers a day. Like, bro, we're looking at the same thing, right? This is why it's so fucking flawed. Speedrunning isn't a good metric to compare characters when shit like this is possible. You evaluate a character by their kit, where their kit can realistically be used, then the teams they slot into and how good are those teams, and then how much investment is required for those teams to be good. Also, just gotta love how every single scenario before Abyss, except the lizards on LSD, was a single target scenario, which negs Zhao. And then in the one scenario where his AoE is favorable, he comes out the closest. And as much as I don't want to defend Mr. Wardrobe Malfunction over here, because fuck, Zhao literally has worse drip than Bennett, I just have to say that speedrunning tests really suck for him, because he isn't a burst damage dealer and has his damage distribution spread out over his whole rotation than in a short period of time, like Ito and my wife for example. That's also why he gets bent and fucked over in this Abyss, because the way he deals damage isn't favorable to fight most of the enemies. Zhao is still a really good hyper carry, current content just doesn't favor him, and this is coming from someone who doesn't even have or give the slightest shit about the character. I genuinely refuse to believe people are this papega to look at this for character comparisons.
Alternating their burst to wipe out waves, and 12-2-1 being as easy as it is was the perfect opportunity for Raiden to battery her entire team by holding back and just spamming normal attacks in preparation for 12-3-1.
Can you even call this Eula gameplay at this point? And the cope he went through to try put Eula and Raiden together and the shit justification of it's her best speedrunning team doesn't cut for me. Raiden after C2 and especially C6 is not supporting Eula. May as well put a collar on that bitch because Eula's supporting Raiden. Also Raiden put a collar on. But this is so skewed to giving Eula the win, it's ridiculous. C2 Raiden can already be regarded as the best hyper carry in the game. Now you're pairing that with C6 Sarah and Bennett. You're just running a Raiden team honestly. Even as a diehard Eula main, you will not be experiencing any close to this performance. And again, I think it's very misleading to call something like this a DPS showdown when it should be titled something related to speedrunning and hyper investment, because when you compare characters like this and you never really address how misleading it is, it can damage someone's experience of the game as they may overrate characters and end up wasting their pulls for someone they don't like, or underrate characters they may like, similar to what's currently happening with Venti and now Zhao. Like seriously. Some people are going to start building Viridescent support Zhao just because I Want to Lose made it look good, and people are also going to overestimate Raiden's kit again, causing a lot of people to be disappointed with their C0 Raiden. Mr. I Want to Lose, based off of this evidence I will be giving you 5 years for fraudery and illegal testing, which will result in you being excommunicated from trusting content on KQM. Oh wait, they already did that. And also, you will now be referred to as I to lose because you don't deserve that W in your name. Now let's move on to the next piece of evidence. Okay, I actually have the worst upload times. Originally, I was gonna clown on his and Kono's tier list, but I kid you not, as I'm editing this section, the motherfucker uploads another video that I can also clown on a bit. So I don't know if I'll still be including the Kono and I Want to Lose tier list. No, sorry, the I to Lose tier list. But we'll see how long the video ends up being. Oh, actually, there has been new evidence pointed to me that I can take a look at. Oh no.
I Want to Lose gaming. Kazuha has pulled in the entire meta around his existence, but
yeah, after listening to thousands of hours of I Want to Lose footage, from every dad joke on from this point, I'm adding another year.
before that, a nice amount of you guys aren't subscribed to my channel. That Ganyu is now doing 3.5 times her solo melt damage, and thus she's easily able to melt away the competition.
Don't let it happen again.
The Thrilling Tale suffers from having a 10-second duration with a 20-second cooldown, as well as much more restrictive rotations.
Skill issue. Kazuha regardless still has his set rotations to fully utilize his buff and get the most from it. Another problem with Kazuha's buff is the fact that it starts counting when the swirl is applied compared to TTDS, which starts when the character is on field, and having to constantly swap to Kazuha for buff uptime is an annoyance itself. Gotta love when he tries to shit on TTDS buff while not talking about the issues with Kazuha's buff.
And the reality is, any swirlable character that's released is released with Kazuha in consideration. Let's take a look at all the DPS characters that are reliant on a Constellation 2 Kazuha to draw out their maximum potential.
Okay, this is again incredibly misleading, because being able to hit the highest possible damage ceiling with Kazuha doesn't make characters reliant on Kazuha or make him the best in slot. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Kazulu isn't the best in slot for some teams. For example, Melt Ganyu, International and Mono teams, that's where Kaz is the best option. But when saying characters are reliant on Kazui, you get the message that IWTL is trying to depict, which I don't think is good. Especially considering the fact that besides a few exceptions, Kazuha is very easily replaced by other units without losing too much damage. And it's kind of ironic because the chart himself, he chose to represent how strong Kazuha was, shows how relative Kaz and Sucrose are, with Sucrose being better until Kaz gets Freedom Sworn. He isn't a core unit to most teams like Ben or Jingcho are, so I don't think it's right to try and convey that characters are relying on him.
All in all, Kazuha has literally blown away all the other Animo characters for overall viability, power creeping most of them, especially at Constellation 2.
Kazuma didn't power creep shit. What's the fuck? Also, how do you make a video covering the best parts about Kazuha and you don't even touch on the strongest aspect, being his double swirl? Like, bro! You had one job and you fumbled. Nah, I can't with this fucking video anymore. It wasn't that bad, but get 2 more years and go fuck yourself.
The next movement is, both of us kind of agreed to this, and it was, we decided to move Beidou below Kaching. And the reason for this is that obviously Beidou still has all those problems with her being absolutely terrible against single targets, and on top of that, she does not work with Raiden.
I have now officially lost all hope in humanity. When Eren starts rumbling, I ain't even gonna complain. They do realize that single target damage isn't as important as AoE for more content, as well as the fact that yes, Beidou's damage may fall off in single target, but she is normally run with 2 single target supports that compensate for this.
But we'll have to get back to you after we've done in-depth testing.
We'll have to, wait until he's fully released and be able to take him through Abyss to actually place him. People forget just how much opportunity cost there is to, let's say, do 2 additional E's on Bennett to fill him up. And those 2 E's cost you like literally 8 seconds of time.
For the mindfuck I endured listening to this, I won't even add more years. I'll just fine your ass $5 grand for my therapy sessions after this. The jury is in agreement that IWTL is guilty with 18 years for misleading players, causing several overdose cases of copium, and extreme volatile simpage symptoms being developed in the average player base. Take him away, court is now closed. All in all, this was a very fun video to make. And I don't know how different this is from the other Genshin courts, but hopefully you guys can leave your thoughts and tell me if I may have strayed too far away from the series' purpose, as I don't want to antagonize or blow things out of proportion. If you somehow can't tell, I'm playing up my rage, because I think it's funny. In the end, for me at least, this is good fun and I can finally get the hell away from IWTL and focus on other content. I have an upcoming pull recommendation vid for the 2.5 banners, and hopefully one more Genshin court before 2.5 releases, but that may be wishful thinking. But anyways, on that note, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on what you think about IWTL, as I'd love to hear it and I respond to almost every single comment. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the flip side. Peace. New kicks, Jackie Chan, as she play. Bad bitch, no bad, I just hit another.